Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Beth and Stan.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Hand, and joining me today is Legacy Leaders Network member and financial services expert, Vance Bennett. Vance, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I'm so excited to have you with me.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm finally here.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we dive in, I always love to hear everybody's backstory. So if you would, Vance, take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about your background and then how those experiences really sparked your passion and made you want to work in financial services.
Yeah. Well, I think it started when I was really young, just because I grew up in a single parent home. My mom raised my brother and I. And so finances were always tight. We grew up on public assistance. I was even in some public housing, but I always wanted to do a little bit better. And I just kind of remember mom saying, if you go out and work hard and learn, you can accomplish things. You can get to where you want to be. So I started shoveling snow at 8 years old and been working ever since. And just, always had interest for understanding how money works. Just seeing different standards of living in the hometown and stuff, and just realized that, I think hard work and just knowing the rules and following those rules and then using good money principles to help you achieve those, it's available to everybody.
That's great. Did you grow up in Ohio? I know you practice in Ohio now. Is that where you grew up as well?
That's where I grew up. I'm a Buckeye.
That's awesome.
Go Bucks. Yeah.
So you get to kind of use your experience and now your wisdom and expertise to help kind of people in your local community, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do. I kind of started out helping people in my church. That's where kind of got started in helping them with tax returns, helping them with budgeting and things like that. I remember one particular friend asked him just to track your expenses, just for a month. I said, it'll be surprising. Well, fast forward 5 years later, he comes to me and he goes, Vance, you would not believe, I couldn't believe $5 here, $20 here was, I said, I know. It's important that we know where our money goes.
It is. I would say that's a great first bit of wisdom to share with our audience. I think people really undervalue the lessons and things that you can learn from just tracking your expenses, even for just a couple of weeks. We did that at our house. It was shocking, Vance, the amount of money that just kind of drifts out the door a little at a time, and you don't realize that it makes a huge financial impact. Is that something you see with a lot of your clients that come in?
Yeah, that is, especially with the younger ones. I've worked on a military base with military members, which was a great honor. But when you're talking with an 18, 19-year-old and you have them do that, they come back and their eyes are bugged out. They're like, I just really didn't understand it. And if anyone's ever tracked calories,
yeah. Yes. It's the same shocking principle. Those little bites here and there really do add up to a lot of calories at the end of the day. Yeah. And that's such a great analogy for tracking those smaller expenses. You mentioned that you have worked with some military families, which is really cool. Are there specific types of clients that you work with or specific areas that you work with?
Yeah, so I really focus on the 50 and above group of those who are either pre-retirement or moving into retirement, and business owners. And just, the more time that you have with them, the more opportunities that you have. And when I say more time with them, I'm really talking about before they actually retire. There's a lot of things that be on their way to the retirement date that you just can't do if they come to you a week or two, or even after they retired. It limits the options. So, but focus on pre-retirees and retirees.
That's great. And a lot of young families in there as well. I would assume that financial planning is a lot like estate planning in that the earlier you get started, the more opportunities you have.
Exactly. Yeah, I really value my certified financial planner training that I received. And so it's really a holistic approach. And I would love for it to be a lifelong journey, right? To help them take advantages of all the opportunities that are out there for them. But truly, if they like minimizing taxes, how do they answer the question, should I do tax deferral and have more money working for me in the, I call it money making machine, right? Whatever your investment is in, and versus what's the tax consequences for later on, how do you weigh that on the scales of making a smart money decision? So you're exactly right. Starting as early as possible is always beneficial. Like sometimes people will fear for that. They're more concerned, well, are they just trying to sell me something?
Right.
Or do someone has their best interests out for them? And I value people as individuals and what's best for them versus just trying to, make a sell or something like that. That's not my goal.
Yes, absolutely. And you can tell that about your personality, that you're in this industry to really help people. You may have touched on this a little bit, but you've been doing this for a while. So, talk to me about some of the common mistakes that you see people make when it comes to financial planning. Not starting early enough is probably one. What else do you see?
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. Procrastination is the top one. The second one is really just a lack of information. Sometimes if you don't know what you don't know, it can hurt you. And so just taking, I guess, a proactive approach. And I ask people all the time, well, is it better to be proactive or reactive? And why do we take proactive actions, right? Because we want to avoid hardship, problems, concerns. There's a lot more peace of mind that can be gained by being proactive and not afraid to ask questions. It is a learning journey. And so it's important that a client feels comfortable enough to ask you a question. There are no stupid questions. So, you know, get out there and ask those questions. Some of the basic things are, make sure that you're saving enough, but then make sure that whether you're saving in the correct vehicle, tax deductible versus something that is maybe tax advantage, less taxes in the future, understanding what kind of risk they want to take, how much volatility they can stand. And then there's that peace of mind factor in there. So some investors, they say they're risk adverse, right? Well, as long as a person understands being risk averse, right, that there is a risk reward continuum. And if they're conservative, right, if they expect little risk, they should probably expect little reward. But if they're willing to take on a right size amount of risk for their personal preference, they can receive potentially, a right size return for that. So really judging that and then really factoring in their time horizon. Some people don't want to see any loss, but they don't need the money for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They've got a little more, I guess they need a little more risk tolerance. But yeah, if they've got a long time, we're not going to do super risky things right before retirement. But if you don't retire for 30 years, you've got some other options in there that you can recommend that might be a little riskier, but pay off in the long term, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And so then on the other end of that, we're dealing with the pre-retirees and retirees, risk mitigation.
Mm,
We want to, what are non-money matters that might come into play and affect a person's wealth? Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Good. Those are all great wisdom and tidbits. So thank you for sharing that with us. On your website, Vance, you talk about the overflow lifestyle. What is the overflow lifestyle? Tell us what you mean by that.
yeah. So the Overflow financial lifestyle strategy, right? It's a process, and that process is financial planning. And so what that process is designed to do is to create the type of standard of living that a person wants to achieve. And then we need to maintain that and then protect it. And so that the Overflow financial lifestyle strategy is designed to kind of take the financial plan into the lab and under a controlled environment, stress test it. What happens if Social Security is not as much as you thought it was going to be? Or what does inflation hit you? Or what about this? What if an unexpected family emergency? What if you have to end up taking care of a loved one, or long-term care crises? Those type of things, just looking at what are some of the possible, I guess, risks that could come into your financial lifestyle strategy. But then also, what are possible opportunities out there that you might be missing that just because you're not aware of? And make sure that you're taking advantage of all those too, so that you're maximizing what that looks like.
It's great. I love the title you've kind of put on that. It makes so much sense. Talk to me about what you love most about working with your clients.
What I like, the sense of relief after we've met. When they've come in with a concern or problem and they're perplexed about it, and take some time, let it. I hate when I go to the doctor and you got all these elements and you try to explain to them and they're like, okay, 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 and they rush through. I take the time to understand it from their perspective, and then let's take some time to research some of the possible solutions, and at the same time tell them this is not the best thing since sliced bread. This thing has some pros, it has some cons, and as long as we make you aware of those things and we weigh those out in the right measure, just seeing that I'm willing to share the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, there's a sense of relief for them, and they start asking more questions, and they're just at peace. So I enjoy that. I enjoy solving problems for them and them feeling confident about it.
Yes, it makes all the work worth it, and all the studying and thinking and all the things that you've had to put into that process, and the time and energy as well. That's awesome. I love that. So you're a part of the Legacy Leaders Network. So talk to me about, why is financial planning more than just telling clients what to do with their money? Through this work that you're doing, what do you hope your legacy is going to be? That's a big question. That's the hardest one I've got for you, Vance, I promise.
All right, that's great. I hope what my legacy, or what I hope to accomplish through the financial planning, is, like I said, it's not just about their money. Legacy Leaders Network, it's not just about their money. And so I love that legacy aspect. Like, what do you think beyond, after you've met the needs of your family, what life lessons are you passing on to your children? I do have a lot of discussion with parents sometimes. Maybe they've had some children that failed to launch, or maybe there's some that still partially depend on them financially, right? And those are really tough conversations to have when the parent struggling with their heartstrings of how much support to give and how to wean off that support. But what successes in life did they learn in life that they want to pass on to their children to help them be more successful? And I hope at the end of the day that not only did we talk about how to grow their wealth and protect it, but then we also talked about what are smart ways to pass that wealth on, what are smart ways for them to fund or support their charities, and not only that, what will they do with their own talent, their time that's not monetarily, to help our world be a little bit better than what it is today.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
I love that. And I love just kind of the vision behind that. That's how we look at our clients too. Money is important, saving for retirement, all of these things are important, getting your estate plan done, all of those things are important. But what really makes a person is all of that non-financial wealth, which is what you're talking about: the family histories and stories, the work ethic, the stories of their successes and the stories of their failures as well. Those are what really make our clients who they are. So I love when I meet other providers who really understand that it's not just about percentages at the end of the day, or how much money we can make at the end of the day. It's really about giving our clients the opportunity to be intentional with the wealth that they do have and really think beyond just money. So I love your view of things. I think that's great. Let's see. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you about, that if there's a prospective client out there listening, that you would want someone to know?
I think what I would want them to know is that if they value holistic financial planning, and what is that? Well, that's asking, I like to look at it this way. I'm going to answer two questions. Will I make it from the client's perspective? And guess what? It is different for every person that's out there. So, what I do even in the discovery process is not only ask you about your goals, but I hope to add some value by maybe making them aware of a few things that they hadn't even considered yet. And I think that's the value of working with a professional. Like you kind of get to meet with someone who's already gone down that road ahead of you that can tell you about some of the turns in the road or warning signs that might be there. And then you can value for yourself whether what risk you want to assume for yourself or maybe transfer to some other entity. But it is they want someone where they can meet and not necessarily have a person that's just going to be their yes man, but someone that's going to say, can we have courageous conversations? And when maybe even if I don't know something, I want the ability to say, I don't have that answer for you right now, but I am going to go find it out and research it because I want to give you the best possible answer to fit your situation. So if they're looking for someone that's kind of methodical and helps them achieve their goals, that would be great for them to come and see me.
That's awesome. That sounds great. What other thoughts do you have, Vance? Anything else?
Well, one, I would like to, one's, I guess, client that really comes to mind is I had a client that was a single lady and she was getting ready to retire. And so this, again, has nothing to do with the financial products or aspects out there. But one of the things I wanted to prepare her for retirement. And one of the things that changes is cash flow. You go from either being paid biweekly or weekly to biweekly to once a month, And so we did a thing. I asked her to do a practice retirement budget. And so we knew what that retirement income was going to look like, her retirement budget. And this is the thing that she discovered. She discovered that she could take one area that she was spending money more on shopping more for personal items. And she said, I could redirect that and go see my nieces in Florida more often. Mm. And but that was a self-discovery thing that she learned just by observing her own habits. So I think those kind of discoveries where you can truly spend your money where you value that is important for the client. And that's a part of my job to help people reach that. So that's more what the financial planning holistic approach is all about.
I love that. You help your clients be really intentional with their money instead of spending it on things they don't even realize they're wasting it on. That's fantastic. Well, for everyone who has been listening, we want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Katie Beth Hand, and my guest today was Vance Bennett. To get connected with Vance, you can find him on his website at vqb1.com, and I will link that in the show notes for you. And then Vance also has a little bit more information that he's going to give you guys before we sign off.
Yes, just that our financial services, financial products that it's offered through Fortune Financial Securities. And then also the registered investment advisor that I work with is Parallel Equity Advisors, and we're located in Dublin, Ohio.
Perfect. So if you are in the Ohio area and you would like to get connected with Vance, be sure to check out the show notes. You can visit him on his website to learn even more information. And Vance, you are so nice. I know that you help so many clients. So thank you so much for all the work that you do. And thank you for taking time to join me on the podcast today.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.